Muhammad Ali was undoubtedly one of the greatest fighters, but his journey reveals the immense challenges he had to overcome to earn that title. He faced many opponents who tested him physically, mentally, and emotionally. Yet, there was one rival who pushed him beyond every limit. This is the untold story of the man who brought the greatest to the brink of death, the perfect fighter. If you watched Muhammad Ali, you would know he always had an answer. He had a way with words and a presence that made people believe in him completely. His confidence wasn't just talk, it was backed up by everything he did, making him unforgettable both inside and outside the ring. He faced every challenge head-on and came out on top because he believed in himself and worked harder than anyone else. That kind of confidence, earned through real victories, is what made him truly the king. But was one question that sometimes made him pause and his smile disappear. Journalists loved to ask it, hoping to catch a rare moment of honesty from the legend. Muhammad? Who was the toughest opponent you ever faced? And you'd see him pause, not because he forgot, but because answering meant admitting that one man had pushed him beyond his limits. For someone who never showed weakness, that question was a challenge all on its own. Ali had a few easy answers for the cameras. He might say who hit the hardest or who broke his jaw. But deep down, the toughest opponent wasn't the one who knocked him down. It was the one who wore him down over 3 fights. This opponent didn't just test his skills, he tested Ali's very will to keep going. That rivalry was so brutal that it left a mark that stayed with him for decades. To truly understand what happened, you have to look past the flashy moments and face the pain and struggle behind his greatness. Back to the beginning, before the world broke him, when he was still untouchable. It wasn't just about winning, it was about surviving. Muhammad Ali's story is really like 3 different fighters sharing the same name. To get what each opponent did to him, we need to look at each part of his career separately. First, there was the featherweight heavyweight from 1960 to 1967, young Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali. He was young, fast, and literally untouchable. He didn't just win, he moved around, teasing and showing off as he took the win. When he faced Sonny Liston or knocked out Cleveland Williams, he was on a level no other heavyweight could match. His dominance came from incredible reflexes and footwork, all powered by his physical talent. Then came the break. When Ali refused to serve in the military in 1967, he was forced to spend 3.5 years away from boxing. That time took away what made his first phase so special, his incredible speed. His loss of his incredible foot speed wasn't because of the punches he took, but because he lost 3 crucial years of his prime due to his suspension from boxing. Those years, when he should have been at his athletic best, were taken away by time and circumstance rather than direct physical damage. When he came back in 1970, he was a changed man. This gave birth to the second part of his career, the strategist. Ali couldn't just rely on his speed anymore to dodge punches. His body was a bit heavier and his legs a bit slower. He had to depend on his sharp mind and ring smarts to stay in the fight. This version of Ali won through endurance, mind games, and by making his opponents exhaust themselves out-hitting his famous, tough chin. This period showed us just how tactically brilliant he was, like in the Rumble in the Jungle. He figured out how to win even when he wasn't the quickest guy in the ring anymore. Finally, towards the end of his career, he was a warrior. This was the Ali of the late 1970s. He was worn down by years of fighting and constant travel. By this time, he was no longer as fast as he used to be, and his tactics weren't as sharp. But he fought with pure grit, heart, and a very high pain tolerance, standing strong only because his will was unbreakable. To be called Ali's toughest opponent, a fighter had to go up against more than one of these versions of Ali. The toughest challenger was the one whose style was perfectly designed to cause pain that he took away Ali's speed, tested his smarts, and in the end, pushed him to fight with everything he had. When people talk about Ali's toughest opponent, a few big names always come to mind. These were the fighters who gave Ali some of his hardest fights, and each one seemed unbeatable in their own way. But if you look closer, you can see why Ali was able to overcome each of them eventually. Take George Foreman, for example. At one point, he was the embodiment of raw power. Before facing Ali in Zaire, he smashed through every opponent, including two of Ali's toughest challengers. He was like a knockout machine, and it seemed like Ali had no chance. But Ali had a trick up his sleeve, the famous rope-a-dope. He taunted Foreman, saying, "Is that all you got, George?" intentionally for Foreman to wear himself out by throwing punches while leaning on the ropes. Ali beat George's raw strength with a tactical strategy. Even though Ali later expressed great admiration for Foreman, he was very vocal in downplaying his power during the fight. He showed that even the strongest force could be stopped with a clever plan. Then there is Ken Norton. Norton's style was not like the other fighters. It was awkward and unorthodox. He was a master of unusual techniques. His crab-like defense meant he kept his hands low and moved sideways a lot, making it really tricky for Ali to land clean punches. The match ended with a shocking loss for Ali when his jaw got broken, a rare and serious injury for him. Despite the loss, Ali learned a lot from that fight, which helped him prepare better for their rematch. After 3 difficult, close fights, Ali earned 2 wins. Norton was definitely a tricky, technical challenge, but he wasn't the one to break Ali's spirit or soul. Ernie Shavers might not have had the fame of Foreman or Norton, but his punches were feared like no other. Ali and Ernie first clashed in 1977. During the fight, Shavers showed why he was known as one of the hardest punchers in boxing history, landing shots that shook Ali several times. Ali, despite being past his prime, displayed great resilience and skill, managing to outlast Shavers and win by a close unanimous decision after 15 rounds. After the fight, Ali gave Shavers a lot of respect, calling him one of the greatest punchers he'd ever faced. That says a lot about how powerful Shavers was. Even though these 3 men gave Ali a really hard time, each one was tough in a different way. Foreman with his raw power, Norton with his tricky style, and Shavers with his brutal punches. Ali managed to come out on top by focusing on and handling each of those specific challenges. The man Ali finally called his toughest opponent was on a whole different level. He wasn't just about strength, style, or the hardest punch alone. He combined all those things perfectly, with a fearless heart that couldn't be shaken by Ali's trash talk and pressure that never let up. He was a challenge Ali could never fully figure out. He only managed to survive. The toughest opponent pushed Ali beyond skill, forcing him into a fight where survival was the only goal. That kind of realness usually showed up only when no one else was watching. The ultimate rivalry. To find the one fighter we pushed Muhammad Ali to his limits, we must first look behind the scenes. The Ali everyone saw was full of energy, always talking, showing off, and calling his wins. That was his way of hyping up fights and getting into his opponents' heads. But the reporters and friends who knew him away from the spotlight saw a different side. A quiet and more thoughtful Ali who didn't let his guard down easily. In those moments, Ali sometimes opened up about how tough boxing really was on his body. He wasn't shy about admitting how powerful George Foreman was. and that Ernie Shavers hit him so hard it shook his kinfolk back in Africa. These were honest talks about the pain he faced, but they never broke his fighting spirit. In fact, he was proud that he made it through. But when Ali spoke about that one fighter, his whole tone changed. No boasting, no clever words, and definitely no jokes. His voice got serious, showing respect for the pain he had to face. This man didn't just hurt Ali's body, he also challenged Ali's spirit, forcing him to face a kind of weakness he usually kept hidden from everyone else. Ali knew this man was the real challenge because the memory of their last fight stayed with him long after the fight ended. It wasn't just about losing or getting hurt. The fight drained him both physically and mentally. Ali was always confident when he talked, but the man he called toughest was the only one who made him feel less confident. To understand why Ali respected this man so much, we have to look back to the one night that put his whole comeback at risk. It was March 8, 1971, at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The energy in the arena was incredible. The whole world was watching. This was the comeback of the former king against the new rightful champion. The stakes were overwhelming. The crowd wasn't just loud, they were wild, split between fans rooting for the champion and those hoping Ali would complete his comeback. The fight would later be known as the Fight of the Century. Ali stepped into the ring with his usual energy, but this opponent was something else. Short, strong, and solid like a fire hydrant, he wasn't the tallest or the quickest, but his machine-like attacks made him a fierce challenge. While Ali tried to dance and taunt, the challenger simply ignored him. His style was like an unstoppable tidal wave, always bobbing and weaving, moving forward without pause, completely unaffected by the speed that had taken down others. He stayed in a crouch the whole time, making it nearly impossible to land a clean hit. And that low stance hid his deadly weapon, a powerful left hook that was aimed right at the liver and head. From the first bell, Ali realized he was in trouble. The loss of his speed was clear for everyone to see. He was up against a strong, motivated champion at his peak, who was ready to take advantage of his slower agility and timing. His famous footwork was gone, or at least severely limited by the challenger's suffocating pressure. Time and time again, Ali found himself pinned to the ropes, taking brutal body shots. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, looked concerned in the corner. Ali was always the master strategist, but this challenger forced him into a corner, demanding a brutal brawl. The crowd watched as the fight turned into a battle of endurance, something Ali's body wasn't expected to withstand anymore. By the 10th and 11th rounds, Ali was badly hurt. But for the first time in his comeback, his face began to swell and he struggled to breathe. That moment in the 15th round defined the fight. The challenger cornered Ali and delivered a sharp left hook that knocked Ali off his feet. Surprisingly, Ali got up almost instantly, driven by muscle memory and pride. His resilience was incredible. It's a moment that will be remembered forever in boxing history. The king was finally knocked down by a punch that counted. Ali lost the fight, but even more than the title, he lost the idea that he couldn't be beaten. That night showed everyone Ali was human, and it introduced the man who would always challenge his spirit. That non-stop pressure, the powerful left hook, and the refusal to back down from Ali's mind games, only one man had that style. The name Ali hesitated to say, the one that followed him his whole career, was Joe Frazier. The roots of their rivalry started long before their first fight even took place. When Ali lost his title and was banned for refusing to join the military service, Frazier actually spoke up for him and even lent him money. They weren't enemies then. But when Ali returned to face Frazier, who was the undisputed champion, everything changed. Ali needed to sell the fight, and he did so using hurtful and personal attacks. He called Frazier the white man's champion, and even worse, Uncle Tom. Frazier, a proud, hard-working black man, was deeply hurt. Ali's insults were cruel, but they reflected the bigger cultural issues of the time, the fight for civil rights and the anti-war movement. Ali stood as the rebellious figure, unfairly painting Frazier as the establishment's bad guy. Their first fight, on March 8, 1971, the fight of the century, was the result of that piled-up tension. Even though the fight played out like a game of chess, the moment everyone remembers is in the 15th round, when Frazier's left hook knocked Ali down. Ali got back up, but he lost by unanimous decision. The score was settled that night, but their rivalry was far from over. Their 3 fights were brutal, especially the 1975 Thrilla in Manila. The punishment was so intense that Ali had to face the truth he couldn't avoid. After winning, Ali, exhausted and barely conscious, said it was the closest thing to dying that I know of. Frazier was different from every other man Ali faced because his pressure was constant and his motivation was personal. Ali never forgot the pain Frazier caused, knowing that his biggest achievement came from getting through the toughest fight of his career. Joe Frazier didn't just take the heavyweight title from Muhammad Ali, he also took a toll on his health and years of his life. The 1974 rematch, which Ali won, was just a build-up to the real challenge, the Thrilla in Manila. This fight is famous for being one of the toughest and most brutal in boxing history, showing the impact Frazier had. The conditions were harsh, with the fight starting at 10 in the morning local time to fit American TV schedules, making it even more grueling for both fighters. The humid, tropical heat was suffocating, estimated to be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit inside the ring. Right from the first bell, they gave it everything, pushing themselves harder than anyone expected. Ali was fighting the man, the heat, and his own aging body simultaneously. After the trilogy with Frazier, Ali had to change how he fought. He couldn't just depend on his speed or fancy boxing moves anymore. Instead, he started using strategies that involved less movement and more defense, like the rope-a-dope. This tactic, where he let his opponent tire themselves out by throwing punches, became crucial because his speed was permanently affected by the long break, so he had to save his energy. Although his strategy was clever, it was tough on his body because he had to take more hits, which caused damage he would later feel. The pain of that first loss and his hunger for revenge stayed with him for years. The toll Frazier took on him, both physically and mentally, shaped Ali into the fighter of the late 70s, one known more for his huge heart and determination than the flashy skills of his younger days. Even after Ali spoke his truth, saying the Thrilla in Manila was the closest thing to dying, the debate still rages among those who watched the trilogy and studied Ali's career. When we bring in trainers, boxing historians, and former fighters, the answer gets a little more complex, but Ali's personal verdict always carries the most weight. Many experts agree with Ali's view, saying Frazier was the toughest because both fighters took and gave heavy punishment throughout their long trilogy. No other opponent made Ali endure and dish out such punishment over 41 rounds. The physical toll was obvious, but some believe Ken Norton was the toughest because of the broken jaw he gave Ali, while others think George Foreman was the biggest threat in a single fight because of his one-punch knockout power. Each opponent challenged Ali in different ways. However, Ali's statement about dying points to the truth. Frazier broke him down to his most basic willpower. Historians point out that the impact from those 3 brutal fights, especially the intense back and forth in Manila, played a big role in the health problems Ali experienced later in life. The questions about who hit the hardest or who was the best boxer become less important when you realize that Joe Frazier drained the very life out of Muhammad Ali. Their rivalry lives on through these debates, but in the end, it always brings you back to the image of the 2 men, exhausted and broken, sitting on their stools in the heat of the Philippines. The rivalry with Joe Frazier truly shaped Muhammad Ali's life, making his honest reflections so meaningful even today. It was more than just boxing. It was a test that played a part in defining who Ali became. The Frazier trilogy, especially the fight in Manila, marks the moment when Ali's physical invincibility came to an end. Although Ali won, the cost was devastating. You can't talk about the greatest without recognizing the opponent who pushed him to his absolute limits. Frazier made Ali draw on what truly counts: heart, courage, and an unbreakable will. In his later years, Ali put aside the cruel public taunts he used to promote the fights. He offered sincere apologies to Frazier and spoke with respect, recognizing that Joe was a man who came from nothing and fought with pride. Ali's reflections show how, despite the pain, there was honor and respect born from that shared ordeal. Frazier wasn't just a rival. He revealed to Ali and the world the strength beneath the speed and grace. Their rivalry stands as a symbol of athletic greatness because it pushed both men to their absolute limits. Ali's career really was a progression of tougher and tougher challenges, starting with his incredible speed, then mastering strategy, and finally fighting just to survive. We witnessed his youthful brilliance, the price of his exile, and how he adapted with smart tactics to face the hardest hitters and most clever opponents. This journey highlights how Ali evolved constantly to meet every new challenge. But the answer was delivered in a moment of exhaustion, not a strategic analysis or a boast. Ali realized that the toughest opponent wasn't the man who hit the hardest or offered the cleverest tactic, but the one who forced him into a space between living and dying. That man was Joe Frazier. He was an unbreakable force who pushed Ali to his limits. The thrilla in Manila was the ultimate test, and Ali's words about Frazier confirms that the true measure of the greatest is found in the greatness of his greatest rival. Sadly, in the 1980s, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome. Despite this challenge, which affected his speed and voice, his impact only grew. He became known not just for his boxing, but for his work as a global humanitarian, inspiring many beyond the ring. He passed away on June 3, 2016, at 74, marking the end of an extraordinary life. His passing not only highlighted the cost of his legacy, but also strengthened his impact beyond boxing. He is proof that true greatness is defined by the quality of the competition. What do you think? Was Frazier the toughest, or was it Norton or Foreman? Drop your answers in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.